Ladies and gentlemen, listen to me right now while you're crying about your last failure. Someone else is using their failure as fuel to become unstoppable. While you questioning why you fell, they're understanding that they fell so they could learn to fly. While you're wallowing in your setback, they're using it as a starters for their greatest comeback. The question isn't whether you'll fall, you will fall. The question is, will you understand why you fall so you can rise stronger than ever before? Today, you're going to discover that every fall is preparation for your flight. It's fundamental truth of falling. You want to know why we fall? Because falling is not your enemy. It's your teacher. It's not your destroyer. It's your developer. It's not your endness. It's your beginning. Every single person who has ever achieved anything significant has fallen more times than they can count. But here's what separates champions from quitters. Champions understand that falling is part of the process, not evidence that they should stop. They know that every fall contains a lesson that success alone cannot teach. They understand that setbacks are steps for comebacks that will astound the world. We fall because success without struggle has no substance. Victory without challenge has no character. Achievement without adversity has no authenticity. When things come too easily, we don't appreciate them. When wins come without cost, we don't value them. When success happens without struggle, we don't develop the strength to sustain it. Falling forces us to dig deeper than we thought possible. It demands that we find strength we didn't know we had. It requires us to develop character we never knew we needed. Think about it. A muscle only grows when it's challenged by resistance. A diamond is only formed under tremendous pressure. A tree only develops deep roots when it faces strong winds. A champion is only forged in the fire of adversity. You were not designed to live a life free from challenges. You were designed to overcome challenges. You were created to turn obstacles into opportunities, setbacks into comebacks, and failures into fuel. Every fall serves a purpose. Some falls teach us humility when success has made us arrogant. Some falls develop resilience when life has been too comfortable. Some falls redirect us when we are heading in the wrong direction. Some falls prepare us for bigger challenges we'll face in the future. Some falls break us down so we can be built up stronger. Some falls reveal character flaws that need to be corrected. Some falls show us who our real friends are when everyone else abandons us. The problem is that most people don't understand the purpose of falling. They see falling as evidence that they're not cut out for success. They interpret setbacks as signs that they should give up. They view failures as proof that their dreams are impossible. But this is exactly backwards. Falling is evidence that you're in the game. Setbacks are signs that you're taking risks. Failures are proof that you're attempting something significant. You never hear about people falling while sitting on the couch. You never hear about people failing while doing nothing. You never hear about people experiencing setbacks while playing it safe. Falling only happens when you're moving. Failing only occurs when you're trying. Setbacks only come when you're attempting something that matters. So the fact that you've fallen means you've been brave enough to try. You've been bold enough to attempt. You've been courageous enough to risk failure in pursuit of success. But here's what's crucial. Falling is temporary, but quitting is permanent. A setback lasts for a season, but giving up lasts forever. A failure teaches you something valuable, but quitting teaches you nothing except how to accept defeat. When you understand that falling is temporary preparation for permanent success, you stop seeing it as your enemy and start seeing it as your OLE. Teaches science of setbacks. There's actual science behind why we fall. And understanding this science will transform how you view every setback in your life. Neuroplasticity. Your brain's ability to form new neural connections is most active when you're challenged, when you're struggling, when you're falling. Your brain literally grows stronger when you face adversity. It develops new pathways. When you encounter obstacles, it creates new solutions when you experience problems. When life is easy, your brain gets comfortable. It stops growing. It stops adapting. It stops evolving. But when you fall, when you face challenges, when you encounter resistance, your brain kicks into overdrive. It starts looking for new ways to solve problems. It begins developing creative solutions. It starts building the mental muscle you need for future challenges. Every fall forces your brain to adapt. Every setback requires new thinking. Every failure demands innovation. Every obstacle necessitates growth. This is why people who have overcome significant challenges often display remarkable creativity, resilience, and problem-solving abilities. Their brains have been trained by adversity. They've been educated by failure. They've been seasoned by struggle. The science also shows us that stress, the kind you experience when you fall, is not always destructive. There's something called hormetic stress that makes you stronger. Just like lifting weights creates stress on your muscles that makes them grow, facing challenges creates stress on your mind that makes it more powerful. The key is understanding that temporary stress leads to permanent estriasis. When you fall, your body also releases chemicals that enhance learning and memory. Adrenaline helps you focus. Cortisol, in appropriate amounts, enhances memory formation. Your brain becomes hyper-aware, hyper-focused, and hyper-receptive to learning. This is why you often remember lessons learned from failure more clearly than lessons learned from success. Your brain is literally designed to learn more from adversity than from EASE. Research also shows that people who have experienced moderate amounts of adversity in their lives are more resilient, more optimistic, and more successful than people who have experienced either no adversity or overwhelming adversity. The key word is moderate, means enough challenge to stimulate growth, but not so much that it becomes overwork. WHG. This suggests that falling is not just inevitable, it's necessary for optimal human development. The immune system works the same way. When you're exposed to small amounts of bacteria and viruses, your immune system develops antibodies that protect you from future infections. But if you're never exposed to any challenges, your immune system remains weak and vulnerable. Similarly, when you're exposed to appropriate amounts of failure and setbacks, you develop psychological antibodies that protect you from future defeats. But if you never face any challenges, you remain psychologically weak and vulnerable. This is why overprotective parenting often produces fragile ADUs. This is why employees who are never challenged remain stagnant in their careers. This is why people who avoid all risks never achieve significant success. Without the stress of falling, without the challenge of setbacks, without the growth that comes from adversity, we act unprepared for life's inevitable challenges. Understanding the science of setbacks changes everything. Instead of seeing falling as evidence of your inadequacy, you see it as evidence of your brain's attempt to make you more adequate. Instead of viewing failure as proof of your limitations, you view it as proof of your brain's effort to expand your capabilities. Instead of interpreting setbacks as signs of weakness, you interpret them as signs of your developing strengths. TSC character forge of diversity. We fall because character cannot be developed in comfort. Integrity cannot be forged in ESE. Strength cannot be built without resistance. Resilience cannot be developed without challenges. Every fall is putting you through what I call the character forge, a process that burns away weakness and impurities while strengthening what's valuable and authentic within you. Character is not what you do when everyone is watching science. It's what you do when you're alone with your struggle, when you're faced with the choice to quit or continue, when everything inside you screams to give up, but something deeper whispers to keep going. Character is revealed not in your victories, but in how you handle your defeats. It's not displayed in your successes, but in how you respond to your failures. It's not demonstrated in your moments of strength, but in how you act when you feel weak. When you fall, you discover things about yourself that success could never reveal. You find out whether you're a quitter or a fighter. You learn whether you're driven by external validation or internal conviction. You discover whether your goals are wants or needs. You find out whether your dreams are wishes or demands. This self-discovery is invaluable because you cannot become who you need to be until you know who you really are. Falling also strips away the non-essential. When you're successful, it's easy to get caught up in things that don't really matter. You can become distracted by superficial concerns, trivial worries, and meaningless pursuits. But when you fall, when you're stripped down to basics, you discover what's truly important. You learn to distinguish between what you want and what you need. You develop the ability to focus on what matters and ignore what doesn't. Every fall forces you to make choices. Do you blame others or take responsibilities? Do you make excuses or find solutions? Do you focus on the problem or search for OPP or Tony Ice? Do you retreat in defeat or advance with determination? These choices reveal your character, but more importantly, they shape your character. Each choice to respond positively to adversity strengthens your moral and psychological fiber. Character developed through adversity has a quality that character developed through ease does not. It has been tested. It has been proven. It has been refined. It has depth, substance, and authenticity. People can sense when someone has been through the fire and emerge stronger. There's a quiet confidence, a deep strength, a genuine wisdom that can only come from having faced real challenges and overcome them. This is why people who have overcome significant adversity often become the most inspiring leaders. They have credibility that cannot be manufactured. They have wisdom that cannot be taught. They have strength that cannot be faked. They have compassion that can only come from having suffered themselves. Their character has been forged in the fire of adversity, and that forging process has created something extraordinary. But character development requires more than just experiencing adversity. It requires the right response to adversity. Adversity can make you bitter or better. Challenges can make you weak or strong. Setbacks can make you quit or become more determined. The difference is not in what happens to you, but in how you choose to respond to what happens to you. The same heat that melts ice also hardens steel. The same pressure that crushes coal creates diamonds. The difference is in the median. What kind of material are you made of? The falling will tell you. The setbacks will reveal it. The challenges will expose it. But here's the beautiful thing. Even if you discover that you're not yet made of the strong material you thought you were, the process of falling and getting back up again and again will transform your very essence. It will turn your coal into diamonds. It will transform your ice into steel. It will convert your weakness into strength. TAG preparation PR principle. We fall because we're being prepared for something greater than we can currently imagine. Every fall is preparation for a future challenge that would destroy you without the strength you're developing right now. Every setback is training for a future opportunity that would overwhelm you without the experience you're gaining today. Every failure is education for a future success that would corrupt you without the humility you're learning through adversity. God, the universe, life, whatever you want to call it, has a way of preparing us for our destiny through our difficulties. It's not random. It's not cruel. It's not meaningless. It's strategic preparation. You're being trained for something specific, something significant, something that will require every ounce of strength, wisdom, and character you're developing through your current struggles. Think about athletes preparing for competition. They don't just practice the easy moves. They don't just work on their strengths. They specifically train in the areas where they're whack. They put themselves through grueling workouts that push them beyond their comfort zone. They practice under pressure, under stress, under the most challenging conditions possible. Why? Because they know that preparation in difficult conditions makes performance in competitive conditions easier. Your life challenges are the same kind of preparation. Every fall is training you for a future test that would break you without this conditioning. Every setback is strengthening muscles you'll need for future battles. Every failure is teaching you lessons you'll need for future success. The difficulty you're experiencing today is developing the capability you'll need tomorrow. This is why you should never waste your pain. Every moment of struggle is an investment in your future success. Every tear you shed is watering the ground where your dreams will eventually grow. Every sleepless night worrying about your challenges is developing the vigilance you'll need to protect your future victories. Every moment you spend fighting through adversity is building the mental muscle you'll need to maintain your success once you achieve it. But preparation requires participation. You can't just passively experience adversity and expect to be prepared. You must actively engage with your challenges. You must intentionally learn from your failures. You must deliberately extract wisdom from your setbacks. You must consciously develop strength through your struggles. The difference between those who are prepared by adversity and those who are destroyed by it is their level of conscious engagement with the process. Every great leader has a period of preparation that seemed like punishment at the time. Moses spent 40 years in the desert before he could lead the Israelites out of Egypt. David spent years running from Saul before he could become king. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison before he could transform a nation. Their periods of adversity weren't punishments. They were preparation for the massive responsibilities they would later carry. What is your current adversity preparing you for? What future challenge will require the strength you're developing right now? What coming opportunity will demand the wisdom you're gaining through your current struggles? What future success will need the humility you're learning through your present failures? You may not see it now, but you're being prepared for something extraordinary. The preparation principle also explains why some people seem to be overnight successes when they're actually over-decade preparations. They've been falling, failing, and learning for years before their moment of recognition arrives. They've been developing skills, building character, and gaining experience through countless setbacks before their breakthrough moment. Their sudden success is actually the result of extensive preparation through adversity. This should give you tremendous hope. Your current struggles are not evidence that you're failing. They're evidence that you're in training. Your present setbacks are not signs that you should quit. They're signs that you're being prepared. Your current falls are not proof that you're not meant for success. They're like proof that you're being equipped for success that's bigger than you currently imagine. Tishi resilience, revolution. We fall so we can learn to bounce back. And in learning to bounce back, we develop what might be the most valuable skill in the modern world, resilience. Resilience is not just the ability to survive difficult times. It's the ability to thrive because of difficult times. It's not just getting back up after you fall. It's getting back up stronger than you were before you fell. Resilience is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it becomes. So every time you fall and get back up, you're doing a resilience rep. Every time you face a setback and push through, you're adding weight to your resilience. Work out! Every time you encounter failure and refuse to quit, you're building resilience. Mass. Over time, this creates a level of psychological fitness that makes you nearly unbreachable. Most people think resilience is something you either have or you don't. They believe it's a genetic trait, a personality characteristic, or a natural talent. But resilience is actually a skill that can be developed. It's a capacity that can be built. It's a strength that can be trained. And the only way to build it is by facing challenges that require you to USC it. This is why people who have lived easy lives often crumble when they face their first real challenge. Their resilience muscle is weak because they've never had to use IT. They lack the psychological fitness to handle adversity because they've never been forced to develop IT. But people who have faced repeated challenges, who have fallen and gotten back up multiple times, who have been through the resilience training program of life, they develop an almost supernatural ability to handle whatever comes their way. Resilience is not just about reculade, it's about growth. True resilience doesn't just bring you back to where you were before you fell. It brings you back better than you were before. It uses the setback as a setup for an even greater comeback. It transforms the falling experience into fuel for rising even higher than before. There are levels to resilience. Basic resilience is simply not giving up when things get tough. Advanced resilience is getting stronger through the tough times. Master level resilience is helping others develop their resilience while you're going through your own challenges. Expert level resilience is actually seeking out challenges because they make you stronger. Elite level resilience is transforming every setback into a comeback that inspires others to do the same. Resilience also has a compound effect. The more resilient you become, the more willing you are to take risks. The more risks you take, the more opportunities you have for both failure and success. The more you experience failure, the more resilient you become. The more resilient you become, the bigger risks you're willing to take. This creates an upward spiral of growth, achievement, and strategy. But resilience is not just about individual benefit. Resilient people become beacons of hope for others who are struggling. They become proof that it's possible to overcome adversity. They become living examples that falling is not final. They become inspiration for others who need to see that comeback is possible. Now, this is how resilience spreads. One person's recovery inspiring another's, one person's comeback, motivating another's 80-10 PT. The world desperately needs more resilient people. In an age of increasing complexity, uncertainty, and change, resilience has become a survival skill. Organizations need resilient EEs. Communities need resilient leaders. Families need resilient parents. Nations need resilient citizens. By developing your resilience to your falls, you're not just helping yourself, you're contributing to the resilience of everyone around you. Every fall is an opportunity to level up your resilience. Every setback is a chance to prove your psychological fitness. Every failure is training for your next comeback. Don't waste these opportunities by giving up. Don't squander these chances by staying down. Don't miss these training sessions by avoiding the work. Embrace your falls as resilience training and watch yourself become unstoppable. Redirection, revolution. Sometimes we fall because we're going in the wrong direction, and the fall is life's way of redirecting us toward our true path. Not every goal you set is meant for you. Not every path you choose is the right one. Not every dream you chase is aligned with your pranparab. Sometimes falling is not punishment. It's protection. It's protecting you from achieving the wrong thing, becoming the wrong person, or living the wrong life. This is perhaps the hardest truth about falling to a teak seprum. We become so attached to our plans, so invested in our goals, so committed to our vision that we can't imagine that we might be heading in the wrong direction. We interpret any obstacle as something to overcome, rather than as a sign that we might need to change courses. We see every setback as a test of our determination, rather than as guidance toward a better path. But sometimes the universe has bigger plans for you than you have for yourself. Sometimes your dreams are too small, your vision too limited, your goals too narrow. Sometimes what you think you want would actually limit what you could become. Sometimes the path you're on would lead to success that satisfies your ego but starves your soul. Sometimes the direction you're heading would give you what you think you want but rob you of what you actually need. The redirection that comes through falling is not always immediately clear. Often it feels like random bad lashukak. It feels like unfair treatment. It feels like punishment for trying to improve your life. But with time, with perspective, with hindsight, the redirection often reveals itself as the greatest gift you could have received. It saves you from a life that looked good on the outside but would have been empty on the inside. Think about the jobs you didn't get that later led to better OPP opportunities. Think about the relationships that ended and made room for your soulmate. Yeah. Think about the business ventures that failed and taught you lessons you needed for your eventual success. Think about the rejections that redirected you toward your true calling. What felt like failure at the time was actually redirection towards something better. But redirection only works if you remain open to new possibilities. If you're so fixed on your original plan that you can't see new opportunities, you miss the gift of redirection. If you're so attached to your initial goals that you can't adapt to new realities, you waste the wisdom that comes from changing course. If you're so invested in being right about your original path that you can't accept that there might be a better way, you'll miss the miracle of redirection. Redirection requires humility. It requires admitting that you might have been wrong about what's best for you. It requires accepting that you might not know the full picture of what's possible. It requires acknowledging that there might be forces at work in your life that have a broader perspective than you have. It requires trusting that what feels like failure might actually be goodness. The key to benefiting from redirection is to remain flexible while staying faithful. Flexible in your methods, but faithful to your values. Flexible in your tactics, but faithful to your parabod. Flexible in your timing, but faithful to your vision. This flexibility allows you to pivot when necessary while maintaining your core entity. It enables you to change direction without losing your destination. Some of the most successful people in history were redirected by what seemed like failure. Walt Disney was fired from a newspaper for lacking imagination and was told Mickey Mouse would fail because women would be afraid of a large mouse on the screen. Oprah was fired from her first television job for being unfit for television. Steve Jobs was fired from the company he founded. These apparent failures were actually redirections toward their true destinies. Your falls might be saving you from mediocrity and redirecting you toward greatness. Your setbacks might be preventing you from settling and pointing you toward your true potential. Your failures might be protecting you from success that would satisfy your ego but starve your soul. Trust the redirection. Embrace the course correction. Follow the new path that your falls have revealed. TC empathy expansion. We fall so we can develop empathy for others who are struggling. Success without struggle breeds arrogance. Victory without challenge creates pride. Achievement without adversity generates judgment. But when you fall, when you struggle, when you face real challenges, you develop something precious and rare, genuine empathy for others who are going through similar battles. Empathy is not sympathy. Sympathy is feeling sorry for someone. Empathy is understanding what they're going through because you've been there. Sympathy is observing someone's pain from a distance. Empathy is remembering your own pain and using that memory to truly connect with theirs. Sympathy says, I'm sorry you're going through that. Empathy says, I understand exactly how you feel because I've been there too. People who have never faced real adversity often lack the capacity to truly understand those who are struggling. They may offer advice, but it sounds hollow because it comes from theory rather than experience. They may try to help, but their help feels inadequate because they can't truly comprehend the depth of the struggle. They mean well, but they lack the credibility that comes from having walked the same difficult paths. But when you've fallen, when you struggled, when you faced real adversity, you develop a depth of understanding that can't be taught. You know what it feels like to question your abilities, to doubt your dreams, to wonder if you have what it takes to succeed. You understand the loneliness of struggle, the weight of disappointment, the pain of setback. This understanding makes you a more effective helper, a more credible advisor, a more compassionate leader. Empathy born from experience has transformative power. When someone who has overcome similar challenges speaks to you, their words carry a weight that other words do not. When someone who has walked your path offers guidance, you listen in a way you don't listen to others. When someone who has faced your struggles shares their story, you pay attention because you know they truly understand. This is why the most powerful mentors are often people who have overcome significant adversity. They have the credibility that comes from experience. They have the wisdom that comes from having made mistakes and learned from them. They have the compassion that comes from having needed help themselves. They have the patience that comes from understanding how difficult change can be. Your falls are preparing you to help others who will face similar challenges. Your struggles are developing your capacity to guide others through their struggles. Your setbacks are teaching you lessons that you one day share with others who need to hear them. Your failures are creating a reservoir of wisdom that you'll draw from when others need your help. But empathy must be at 10x. You can't fake the understanding that comes from real experience. You can't manufacture the credibility that comes from having actually walked the path. You can't pretend to have the wisdom that only comes from making mistakes and learning from them. This is why your falls are so valuable. They're giving you authentic experiences that will make you genuinely helpful to others. Empathy also creates connection. Yeah, when you've been through struggles, you can connect with others who are struggling in a way that people who haven't faced adversity simply cannot. You can build bridges of understanding. You can create bonds of solidarity. You can form relationships based on shared experience rather than superficial similarities. This connection is healing for both you and the people you help. When you help someone else through a struggle you've overcome, it gives meaning to your own pain. It transforms your past suffering into present presente. Purpurab. It makes your previous falls feel worthwhile because they prepared you to prevent someone else from falling as hard. It turns your wounds into wisdom and your scars into stressancy. Teach appreciation activation. We fall so we can truly appreciate the view from the top. Success that comes without struggle is rarely valued. Victory that comes without challenge is seldom cherished. Achievement that comes without adversity is often taken for granted. But when you've fallen, when you've struggled, when you've faced the real possibility of failure, success becomes sweet in a way that easy victory never could be. When you've been at the top, you have a unique appreciation for the top. When you've experienced failure, success feels like a miracle. When you've known defeat, victory feels like a gift. When you face the darkness of setback, the light of success shines brighter than it could for someone who has never experienced real darkness. This appreciation is not just emotional, it's practical. When you truly appreciate your success, you're more likely to maintain IT. When you understand how hard it was to achieve, you're more willing to do what's necessary to keep IT. When you remember the pain of failure, you're more motivated to avoid the behaviors that led to IT. Appreciation born from struggle creates sustainability that easy success rarely provides. People who achieve success without struggle often become complacent. They don't understand how precious their position is. They don't realize how quickly it can be lost. They don't appreciate the effort required to maintain IT. They take their success for granted because they didn't have to fight for IT. But people who have fallen and risen again never forget how hard it was to climb. They never take their position for granted because they remember how painful it was to be at the top. Appreciation also creates gratitude. And gratitude is one of the most powerful forces for maintaining success and happiness. When you're grateful for what you have, you're more likely to take care of IT. When you appreciate your position, you're more likely to protect IT. When you're thankful for your opportunities, you're more likely to maximize them. Gratitude born from struggle is deeper and more sustainable than gratitude that comes from easy. The falls also make you appreciate the journey, not just the destination. When success comes easily, it's easy to focus only on the outcome and miss the growth that happens along the way. But when you've fallen and had to get back up, you appreciate every step of progress. You celebrate small victories because you know how significant they are. You value incremental improvement because you understand how important it is. This appreciation extends to the people who help you along the way. But when you've fallen and had to get back up, you appreciate every step of progress. You celebrate small victories because you know how significant they are. You value incremental improvement because you understand how important it is. This appreciation extends to the people who help you along the way. When you've fallen and people have helped you get back up, you develop a deep appreciation for support. You understand the value of encouragement, the power of belief, the importance of community. You don't take help for granted because you know what it's like to need it and not have IT. You appreciate mentors, friends, and family in a way that people who have never really needed help often do not. Appreciation also makes success more meaningful. When you've worked hard for something, when you've overcome obstacles to achieve it, when you've fallen and gotten back up to reach it, the achievement means more than it would if it came EA It's not just a result, it's a testament. It's not just an outcome, it's a big story. It's not just success, it's TIUMPH. The view from the top is beautiful, but it's most beautiful when you remember the view from the dot out. A taste of victory is sweet, but it's sweetest when you remember the bitterness of defeat. The feeling of success is powerful, but it's most powerful when you remember the pain of failure. Your falls make your rises more meaningful, your victories more precious, and your success more sustainable. Teaching innovation, incubation. We fall because falling forces innovation. When everything is working perfectly, there's no reason to change, adapt, or improve. But when you fall, when your current approach isn't working, when your existing strategies have failed, you're forced to innovate. You must find new ways, develop new methods, create new solutions. Innovation is born from necessity, and necessity often comes from failure. Some of the greatest innovations in human history came from people who were not forced to find new solutions because their old solutions weren't working. They weren't innovating from a position of strength, but from a position of need. They weren't creating from comfort, but from crisis. They weren't inventing from confidence, but from desperation. Their faults forced them to think differently, try new approaches, and discover possibilities they never would have explored if everything had been going smoothly. When you fall, your brain shifts into problem-solving mode. It stops relying on what has worked in the past and starts looking for what might work in the future. It begins to think creatively, to consider new possibilities, to explore uncharted territory. The pressure of failure activates your innovative capacities in ways that success never could. This is why some of the most creative solutions come from people who are facing the biggest challenges. They don't have the luxury of using conventional approaches because conventional approaches have already failed them. They must innovate out of necessity. They must create new paths because the old paths are blocked. They must invent new solutions because the old solutions are broken. Innovation also requires the willingness to fail. You can't innovate safely. You can't create new solutions without risking new failures. You can't discover breakthrough approaches without being willing to experience breakdown moments. The fear of falling prevents innovation, but the experience of falling enables it. Once you've already fallen, you have less to lose and more freedom to experiment. Your falls are innovation. Boot camps. They're forcing you to think differently, act differently, and approach challenges differently. They're breaking you out of old patterns that weren't serving you. They're pushing you beyond comfort zones that were limiting your potentials. They're demanding that you level up your thinking, upgrade your strategies, and evolve your approach. But innovation requires more than just pressure, Rhines. It requires the right mindset. You must see falling not as evidence that you should stop trying, but as evidence that you need to try differently. You must view failure not as proof that your goals are impossible, but as proof that your methods need adjustment. You must interpret setbacks not as reasons to quit, but as reasons to innovate. The most successful people are often the most innovative, not because they're naturally more creative, but because they've been forced to innovate by their failures. They've had to find new ways because the old ways didn't work. They've had to create new solutions because the old solutions weren't adequate. They've had to develop new approaches because their initial approaches led to setbacks. Innovation also has a compound effect. Each innovation makes you more capable of future innovation. Each creative solution increases your creative hypothesis. Each time you're forced to think differently. Thinking differently becomes more natural. This creates an upward spiral of innovative thinking that makes you more adaptable, more resilient, and more successful over time. Your current fall might be incubating your next breakthrough. Your current failure might be forcing the innovation that leads to your greatest success. Your current setback might be pushing you to discover the solution that transforms your life. Don't waste this incubation period by giving UP. Don't miss this innovation opportunity by stopping trying. Use your fall as fuel for innovation. Stress and stratification, we fall because physical strength is developed through resistance and psychological strength is developed the same way. Just as your muscles only grow when they're challenged by weight that's difficult to lift, your character only strengthens when it's challenged by circumstances that are difficult to handle. Every fall is adding weight to your psychological workout. Every setback is increasing the resistance in your character. Training. Every failure is building your mental and emotional muscle. There are levels of strength that can only be accessed through specific types of adversity. Surface level strength can be developed through minor challenges, but deep, unshakable strength requires major setbacks. Lots. Core strength requires core challenges. Foundational resilience requires foundational taste testing. The strength that can carry you through life's biggest challenges can only be developed by facing significant challenges head-on. This is why people who have overcome major adversity often display a quiet confidence that's different from the confidence of people who have lived relatively easy lives. Their strength has been tested, their resilience has been proven, their character has been. But strength development is not automog. Just like physical exercise, psychological strengthening requires proper form, consistent effort, and progressive overload. You can't just experience adversity and expect to get stronger. You must engage with it properly. You must extract the lessons it's trying to teach you. You must use the resistance to build capacity rather than allowing it to build resentment. The proper form for psychological strength training is maintaining the right attitude while facing adversity. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Ask, what is this teaching me? Instead of declaring, this is unfair, declare, this is making me stronger. Instead of complaining, I can't handle this, affirm, I'm learning to handle anything. The attitude you maintain while falling determines whether the experience strengthens you or weakens you. Consistent effort means not giving up when the strengthening process becomes uncomfortable. Just like physical muscle growth requires pushing through the burn, psychological growth requires pushing through the pain. The temptation is to quit when things get difficult, but that's exactly when the strengthening is happening. The discomfort of growth is evidence that growth is also occurring. Progressive overload means that as you get stronger, life will present you with greater challenges. This isn't punishment for your progress. It's preparation for your promotion. Each level of strength you develop qualifies you for the next level of responsibilities. That's each increase in your capacity to handle adversity increases your capacity to handle OPP, RT unity. Each upgrade in your ability to manage setbacks upgrades your ability to manage success. The strength you develop through falling creates what I call unshakable foundation. When you've been tested by real adversity and found that you can survive it, thrive through it, and grow from it, you develop an inner knowledge that you can handle whatever life throws at you. This knowledge becomes a foundation of confidence that external circumstances cannot destroy. People with this kind of strength become magnetic to opportunities and other strong people. Organizations want employees who have proven they can handle pressure. Leaders want team members who have demonstrated resilience. Partners want relationships with people who have shown they can work through challenges. Your strength developed through falls becomes one of your most valuable assets. But the most important aspect of strength stratification is that each level of strength you develop prepares you to help others develop their own strength. You can't teach what you haven't learned. You can't guide others through challenges you haven't faced yourself. You can't develop strength in others without having developed it in yourself. Your falls are not just making you stronger, they're preparing you to make others stronger. Yes, the strength you're developing right now through your current challenges is strength you will use to help your children face their challenges. Your employees overcome their obstacles. Your community navigate their difficulties. Your personal strength development becomes a community asset. Your individual resilience becomes a collective result. TSC perspective paradigm shift. We fall because we need a change in perspective. When you're standing at the top of a mountain, you can only see the view from that one angle. But when you fall to different levels, when you experience different vantage points, when you see life from multiple POVs, you develop a perspective that's broader, deeper, and more complete. Success can create blind spots. When everything is going well, it's easy to become narrow in your thinking, limited in your vision, and close to new possibilities. You can become so focused on maintaining your current position that you miss opportunities for right growth. You can become so comfortable with your current perspective that you stop seeking new viewpoints. But falling forces you to see things differently. It gives you new vantage points that success alone could never provide. It opens your eyes to realities you couldn't see from your previous mobilization. It reveals possibilities that were hidden from your former perspective. It shows you aspects of life, people, and yourself that you never would have discovered without the journey to the top. The perspective you gain from falling is invaluable. You learn what really matters and what doesn't. You discover who your real friends are and who were just there for the benefits. You understand what you can control and what you can't. You recognize what deserves your energy and what doesn't. You distinguish between what's urgent and what's important. You separate what's temporary from what's permanent. This perspective shift often leads to better decisions. When you've seen life from multiple angles, you make more informed choices. When you've experienced both success and failure, you understand the full spectrum of possibilities. When you've been at the top and the bottom, you can navigate the middle with wisdom. The perspective gained from falling makes you a better leader, partner, parent, and person. Falling also gives you perspective on your own capabilities. When you're always successful, you never really know how much you can handle. You never discover your true limits or your hidden reserves. You never learn what you're really made of. When you fall, when you push beyond what you thought was possible, when you're forced to dig deeper than you've ever dug before, you discover capacities you never knew you possessed. The perspective shift that comes from falling also affects how you view other people. When you've been through real struggles, you become less judgmental. You understand that everyone is fighting battles you can't see. You realize that success and failure are often separated by circumstances beyond anyone's control. You develop compassion for others who are struggling because you remember what it felt like to struggle. This perspective makes you a more effective leader. Leaders who have only known success often lack the empathy needed to truly connect with those they're trying to lead. They can't relate to the struggles of their team members because they haven't faced similar struggles themselves. But leaders who have fallen and risen again have credibility that can't be manipulated. They have understanding that can't be taught. They have perspective that can only be earned. The perspective paradigm shift also changes how you define success. Before falling, success might have been defined by external measures, money, status, recognition. But after falling, success is often redefined in terms of internal measures. Peace, purpose, fulfillment. You realize that external success without internal satisfaction is ultimately empty. You understand that true success must be holistic, encompassing not just what you achieve, but who you become. This new perspective on success makes you less likely to pursue achievements that don't align with your values. It makes you more selective about opportunities that might advance your career but compromise your character. It makes you wiser about the price you're willing to pay for various forms of success. The perspective gained from falling helps you define success in ways that are sustainable, fulfilling, and authentic. Humility harbors. We fall because success without humility is dangerous. Arrogance is the enemy of continued growth. Pride goes before destruction. Ego prevents learning. When you're always winning, always succeeding, always getting what you want, it's easy to start believing your own press, overestimating your abilities, and underestimating the challenges you'll face. Humility is not thinking less of yourself, it's thinking of yourself less. It's understanding your place in the larger scheme of things. It's recognizing that your success is not just about your efforts, but also about circumstances, timing, help from others, and sometimes just plain luck. It's acknowledging that what goes up can come down, that success can be temporary, that no one is immune to setbacks. Falling harvests humility in ways that success never could. When you fall, you're reminded that you're human. You're shown that you have limitations. You're taught that you don't have complete control over your circumstances. You're humbled by the realization that despite your best effort, things don't always go as planned. This humility is not humiliation. It's education. Humility makes you more coachable. When you realize you don't know everything, you become more open to learning. When you acknowledge your limitations, you become more willing to seek help. When you accept that you can improve, you become more receptive to feedback. Pride prevents learning, but humility enables it. The humility harvested through falling also makes you more relatable. People can connect with leaders who have been humbled because they seem more human. They trust people who admit their mistakes because honesty builds credibilities. They follow people who acknowledge their limitations because it shows authenticity. Humility creates connection in ways that arrogance never could. Humility also prevents the kind of decision-making that leads to spectacular failures. Humble people seek counsel before making important decisions. They consider potential negative consequences, not just positive outcomes. They prepare for setbacks, not just success. They build teams of people who can complement their weaknesses rather than just affirm their strengths. But humility must be befriended. Too little humility leads to arrogance and eventual destruction. Too much humility leads to self-doubt and missed opportunities. The right amount of humility acknowledges your limitations while still believing in your potential. It recognizes your mistakes while still pursuing your dreams. It accepts your humanity while still striving for excellency. The humility harvest from falling also includes learning to ask for help. Pride says, I can do this alone. Humility says, I can do this better with help. Pride says, asking for help is weakness. Humility says, asking for help is wisdom. Pride says, I should already know how to do this. Humility says, learning how to do this is part of growth. Asking for help when you've fallen is not admission of defeat. It's evidence of wisdom. It shows that you understand the value of community, the power of collaboration, and the importance of support. It demonstrates that you're more committed to achieving your goals than to protecting your ego. It reveals that you're mature enough to prioritize results over ijish. The humility that comes from falling also makes you more grateful. When you've experienced loss, you appreciate what you have. When you've faced failure, you value success. When you've been at the bottom, you're thankful for every step you take. This gratitude makes you more positive, more attractive, and more magnetic. People are drawn to grateful people because gratitude is contagious. CAC legacy laboratory. We fall because our greatest legacy is not what we achieve, but what we overcome. The stories that inspire others are not stories of easy success, but stories of difficult TRUMPH. The testimonies that change lives are not testimonies of smooth sailing, but testimonies of weathering storms. The examples that motivate others are not examples of perfection, but examples of perseverance. Your falls are creating your legacy. Every time you get back up, you're writing a chapter that someone else needs to read. Every time you overcome a setback, you're creating a testimony that will encourage someone who's facing a similar challenge. Every time you turn a failure into fuel, you're demonstrating what's possible for others who are dealing with their own failures. The legacy laboratory of adversity creates stories that have power here. Stories of privilege and easy success don't inspire because most people can't relate to them. They create distance rather than connections. They make people feel bad about their own struggles rather than hopeful about their possibilities. But stories of falling and rising again create hope because they're relatable. They show that ordinary people can overcome extraordinary challenges. Your current fall might be the foundation of your future legacy. The struggle you're going through right now might become the story that saves someone else's life. The challenge you're facing today might become the testimony that transforms someone else's perspective. The setback you're experiencing now might become the example that proves to someone else that comeback is possible. But legacy is not just about inspiration, it's about instruction. Your falls are teaching you lessons that you'll eventually teach others. Your failures are developing wisdom that you'll eventually share. Your setbacks are creating understanding that you'll eventually use to help others navigate their own difficulties. You're not just going through this for yourself. You're going through this for everyone who will benefit from what you learn. The legacy laboratory also tests what's really important to you. When you fall, when you lose things you thought were essential, you discover what actually matters. You learn what you can live without and what you can't. You understand what's truly valuable and what's just decoration. This clarity about what matters becomes part of the legacy you leave for other rents. Legacy is also about the people you become through your struggles. The character you develop, the strength you build, the wisdom you gain, the compassion you cultivate, all of this becomes part of what you pass on to the next generation. Your children, your students, your employees, your community, they all benefit from the person you become through your adversity. The laboratory of legacy also includes learning to help others while you're still in your own struggle. So, some of the most powerful help comes from people who are going through similar challenges. Right. Now, they have fresh empathy, Karan, and understanding, and present tense compassion. They're not speaking from the distant memory of past struggle, but from the immediate experience of current battle. Che, your legacy is being written in real time through how you handle your current challenges. Are you writing a story of giving up or getting UP? Are you creating a testimony of defeat or victory? Are you demonstrating what's possible or what's impossible? The choice you make in this moment becomes part of your eternal legacy. Tichi Divin Dean Discovery. We fall because there's a divine design, a greater plan, a larger purpose that we can only see in retrospect. What feels like random bad luck is often strategic positioning. What seems like unfair treatment is often protective intervention. What appears to be punishment is often preparation. When you can't see the bigger picture, falling feels senseless. But when you zoom out and look at the larger pattern of your life, falling often reveals itself as part of a masterpiece. As the divine design discovery is perhaps the most difficult concept to accept when you're in the middle of a fall. When you're experiencing pain, loss, disappointment, or failure, it's hard to believe that there's any purpose to your suffering. It's challenging to trust that there's a plan when your plans have been destroyed. It's difficult to have faith that there's meaning when everything feels meaningless. But throughout history, the greatest stories of human triumph have included chapters of apparent defeat. The most powerful testimonies of victory have included seasons of seeming failure. The most inspiring examples of success have included periods of significant struggle. The pattern is so consistent that it suggests design rather than coincidence. Consider the divine design in the story of Joseph, who was sold into slavery by his brothers, falsely accused by his master's wife, and forgotten in prison. Each fall seemed to move him further from his destiny of leader's hip. But each setback was actually positioning him for his ultimate purupa bed. The slavery taught him about different cultures. The false accusation taught him about interamity. The prison taught him about leadership in difficult circumstances. When he finally rose to power in Egypt, he had exactly the experience he needed to save nations from famine. The divine design discovery requires faith that there's a purpose even when you can't see it, faith that there's a plan even when it doesn't make sense, faith that there's meaning even when everything feels random. This faith is not blind optimism, it's trust based on the consistent pattern of Deutet. How adversity has been used throughout history to prepare people for their destiny. But discovering the divine design requires participation. You can't just passively experience adversity and expect to see the plum rumpered. You must actively look for the lessons. You must intentionally extract the wisdom. You must deliberately develop through the difficulty. You must consciously cooperate with the process of becoming who you need to be. The divine design also includes timing. Often, the reason we fall when we do is because we needed to be in a particular place at a particular time with particular experiences to fulfill our particular purpose. The timing of your fall might be preparing you to meet someone who needs your help. It might be positioning you for an opportunity that requires your specific experience. It might be developing you for a responsibility that demands your particular kind of strength. Trusting in divine design doesn't mean being passive. It doesn't mean accepting everything that happens without working to change it. It doesn't mean giving up on your goals and dreams and just letting whatever happens happen. It means working as hard as you can while trusting that the outcomes are being orchestrated by a wisdom greater than your own. The divine design discovery also brings peace. When you believe that your falls are part of a larger plan, they become easier to endure. When you trust that your setbacks serve a purpose, they become less painful to experience. When you have faith that your struggles are preparing you for something greater, they become more meaningful to undergo. This peace doesn't eliminate the pain, but it provides a context that makes the pain more bearable. These final readings, the ultimate purpose falling. This brings us to the ultimate truth about why we fall. We fall so we can rise with such power, such purpose, such passion that our rising becomes a beacon of hope for everyone who witnesses it. We fall so we can demonstrate that falling is not final. We fall so we can prove that setbacks can become comebacks. We fall so we can show that failure is not the opposite of success. It's part of success. Your rising after falling will be different from success that never knew failure. It will be deeper, more meaningful, more authentic. It will carry the weight of wisdom earned through struggle. It will possess the power of character forged through adversity. It will have the beauty of victory won through perseverance. It will demonstrate the possibility of transformation through trial. When you rise after falling, you don't just recover what you lost. You become more than you were before you fell. You don't just return to your previous position, you ascend to a higher level. You don't just regain your old strength. You develop new capacities. You don't just get back what you had, you gain what you needed. The final rising is not just about personal victory. It's not about inspiring others to believe in their own capacity to rise. Your comeback becomes their hope. Your recovery becomes their exordium. Your triumph becomes their inspiration. Your rising shows them that if you can do it, they can do it too. But the final rising requires everything you've learned from falling. It requires the humility that keeps you grateful. It requires the empathy that keeps you connected. It requires the perspective that keeps you focused. It requires the strength that keeps you resilient. It requires the wisdom that keeps you strategic. It requires the faith that keeps you trusting. The ultimate purpose of falling is to prepare you for a rising that's so complete, so powerful, so transformative that it becomes your greatest contribution to the world. Your fall and rise story becomes a testimony that changes lives. Your journey from setback to comeback becomes an example that motivates others. Your transformation from failure to success becomes a demonstration of what's possible. Right now, you might be in the middle of a fall. You might be experiencing setback, failure, disappointment, or defeat. You might be questioning why this is happening to you. You might be wondering if you'll ever rise again. But I'm here to tell you that your fall is not your end. It's your preparation for your greatest beginning. Every fall has prepared someone for their finished hour. Every setback has positioned someone for their greatest comeback. Every failure has educated someone for their most significant success. Every defeat has trained someone for their ultimate victory. Your fall is preparing you for your risings. So get back, you clap, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. Not because you feel like it, but because you're destined for it. Not because you're ready, but because you're being made ready. Not because it makes sense, but because it makes you stronger. Your falling was never meant to be your finale. It was meant to be your preparation for your greatest performance. Your setback was never designed to be your destination. It was designed to be your setup for your most significant success. Your failure was never intended to define you. It was intended to refine you for your ultimate power. The world is waiting for your ring. The people who need your testimony are waiting for your comeback. The opportunity that requires your experience is waiting for your recent kodote. The purpose that demands your particular combination of wisdom, strength, and compassion is waiting for your return. Yeah. You fell so you could rise. You failed so you could succeed. You were broken so you could be built stronger. You were knocked down so you could get up with power. You experienced setbacks so you could stage a comeback that amazes the world. Now rise. Rise with the power of someone who has been to the bottom and refused to stay there. Rise with the wisdom of someone who has learned from their mistakes. Rise with the strength of someone who has been tested and proven. Rise with the purpose of someone who understands their destiny. Your time of falling is over. Your season of rising has begun. Your moment of victory has arrived. The world needs to see what rising after falling looks like. Now go show them!